Hey, all you cool cats and kittens, we're back. It's Truffle Hunter and his trusted companion, Professor Trent. So we are back with a lecture, this time on Chapter 11 for Hume 115. So open your Hume books. I've got my binder version right here. I'm on page 324 in the, I'm not sure which edition it is, but it's the binder edition. It's the summary pages of Chapter 11. So I'm going to do a very brief lecture summary. I don't want to bore you, so we'll keep these really short and sweet. Truffle Hunter's right here to keep us entertained. And I would like for you to join me on page 324 or whatever the summary pages are for you for chapter 11. So this is on inductive reasoning. Now you've heard this before. This is not new material. You know that an inductive argument is an argument that possibly, plausibly, or likely follows to the conclusion. In other words, the evidence provided, the premises provide the possibility that the claim, the conclusion, is strong and cogent. You know those words as well, based on chapter 3. So in this chapter, we're just simply digging a little bit deeper into inductive reasoning, specifically the patterns of inductive reasoning. I want you to pay attention particularly to that part. So if you join me in the summary pages, I'm on page 324. We're looking at inductive arguments, arguments whose premises are intended to provide support but not conclusive evidence, that's deductive, for the conclusion. In particular, we are examining 4 common types: inductive generalization, arguments from analogy, causal arguments, and statistical arguments. Write those 4 types of inductive arguments down. You have seen them before, you will see them again, all right? Those 4 types of arguments will be directly connected to your final project. Now, let's talk about indicator words. You remember indicator words from chapter 3. Likely, probably, plausibly, it's possible that, it's reasonable to believe. This is not necessarily new material for you, but it's a good refresher on what makes an inductive argument. What I do want you to do as you go through the summary and you go through the chapter are to drill down on the patterns. Okay, so go back and reread what makes for an inductive generalization, what makes for an argument from analogy, what makes for a causal argument, and what makes for a statistical argument, and how you identify them as you're evaluating, analyzing, reading, thinking critically about arguments. I don't need you to worry too much about polling, double-blind, reference class, that kind of thing. What I want you to concentrate on are those 4 patterns we just talked about, as well as an argument being cogent and strong. Go back and review what that means. Now, as you're reading the 2 articles that I put in your unit folder for this week, make sure you read those 2 articles. What I'd love for you, look at Truffle Hunter, what I'd love for you to be able to tell me is what patterns have the authors used. In other words, what inductive reasoning patterns did they use to make their claims? Because can you use more than one pattern in an argument? Yes, you can. You knew the answer to that. So go back and reread those articles and identify the patterns presented. All of this is leading to chapters 12, 13, and 14 and your final project. And for your final project, I'll have you work with a particular argument and actually determine what patterns you want to use to craft the argument. So go back through this chapter and really drill down to what makes up each of those patterns: generalization, causal, statistical, analogy. And think about one of the topics maybe that we've studied already that really interests you. And if you were to craft an inductive argument that has an inductive claim to it, What pattern would you use to organize your premises to provide evidence to support your claim in order to make it strong and cogent? All right, so think about that. That's a couple of different things for you to read about and think about this week. Be sure you read the articles in the unit, and we'll be back soon with more information on your final project. Until then, be well and stay cool. Take care.